Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Rashad, aka Tiffany Hunter Monique, and today I'm going to be doing a step-by-step tutorial on my neutral drag makeup face. While all the products will be geared more towards people of color, since I am a person of color, all the techniques that I use can still be used for anyone. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right on in and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is prime my skin. I use the e.l.f. Hydrating Face Primer because sometimes my face can get a little dry. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that in all over the face and neck. Excuse me. Speaking of dry, I'm a little dry out myself. There we go. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a makeup wipe and I'm just going to get like a little excess off of the eyebrow, because now what we're going to do is glue my eyebrows down. Now a lot of people during this summer, they like to use Prozade and things like that. I've actually seen people use like Scar Wax and Spirit Gum. That's actually how I first learned how to cover my brows. But what I like to do is just get a good old Elmer's glue stick, purple disappearing kind, it's a good drag go-to, and I like to go in on my brows. So I go in with small circles, coat at each of the brow. Mind you, if you hear a little bit of a noise in the background, I have a fan on. It's summer, summer weather right now. And then I do the same other brow. Now I do the small circles going inward because I'm going against the grain, and it's easier to coat all of the hairs that way. So I just go in like that. Then I just take the back end of a brush. Some people use a comb. Some people use a mascara spoolie. But, for me, the back of a brush works perfectly fine. And then I just smooth everything upward. I like to go upward, so that way we have all the hairs going in one spot. And it's easier, make them like the eyeshadows blend. For me, at least. Some people, like to go back that way, which is fine. Whatever works best for you and your face. There we go. So we have the first layer down. I like to do like about 2 or 3 layers. It just depends on one, how much time I have, and the security that I'm requiring at that moment. So while my top half dries, I like to work on the bottom half of my face. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go in with my good old stick foundation. It's Black Opal in the shade Beautiful Bronze. You can get it at like Walmart. You can get it at most drugstores. And I'm just gonna swipe it on. Now I'm leaving some space in the center, like right up under my eye, and that's where my highlight foundation is gonna go. But I do like to coat my nose, and then just try to get a decent amount of coverage. And then I go in with a damp beauty blender. And this actually is the last usage I'm going to get out of this one, so I'm going to be replacing it this week. And blend it out. Now while I do love the tapping motion, sometimes in some certain spots, tapping might not be the most convenient. So swiping sometimes kind of helps, especially if you're pressed for time. And I'm just gonna marry that into my skin. It looks a little odd right now, but that's because we're not under club lighting. So just finding what works for you is really beneficial. Now we have our skin tone foundation down. So now we're going to go in with our highlight foundation. Now for highlight foundation, I like to use Cashew by Black Opal as well. It's another stick foundation. It's a couple of shades lighter than my skin tone, so that way it brings attention to the areas that I want it to bring attention to. So I just go under my eye, I feel for the high point of my cheekbone, and I go in here and I kind of stop it at that point. And the same other side. Dab a little bit on the lip. We're gonna blend it all, and it's all gonna marry, but that just helps reinforce. Boom, right in there, and on my nose, just like that. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. Take the other side of the beauty blender, and go ahead and start blending your foundation. Now, since this is a sponge, sometimes it will soak up some product and shear it out a little bit. Now, if you feel it necessary, you can add some foundation back, depending on, what kind of look you're going for. But for me, this works out because, more of a realness queen when I'm in person. So, softer blended works for me. There we go, so we have that. And just pounce that down a little bit too. And I'm going to leave the nose as is because my nose, I like to make it be more of a standout. So I like to leave that bit. And make sure you're very careful when you're tapping directly under the eye because it's, some of the most sensitive skin on the face. So we have that down. We have the highlight foundation in. Now, we're going to go in with my contour foundation because I like to have all of the dimensions of my face in cream, set it with a powder, and then go back in and reinforce the color. That way, through the night, when you start to sweat and things start to move, you're less likely to lose the effect because you have that foundation set. So, I like to go from the middle of my ear, if you see that notch right in there, and then bring it down, right in there, and I like to feather it up. So that way, whenever you blend it in with the highlight, it's a little easier to marry the colors. Then we're going to do the same thing, other side. Now, mind you, whatever intensity you want to go with, of course you can do it, but I prefer a softer look sometimes. So it's just easier for me to start super light and, with the application, and then if I decide that I want to go heavier, then I can, always go heavier. Because it's easier to add more makeup on whenever you make the decision on what type of face you're going for. I'm going to go in, and my contour foundation, by the way, is from Ben Nye. It's a cream foundation in Deep Ebony. I'm running low because, I've been using a good bit of it because I use it for rounding off the jaw. Started from the contour and then just round it. Because I use it for contour foundation. I use it for drawing my brows on because I'm going to draw those on while my foundation is still wet before I set everything. There we go. Round it out and take it down. And then, just making the jaw seem a little softer. And then, of course, that adds dimension. So if, you have a double chin you're trying to hide and you want to make it disappear, that's the way to do it. You just gotta do it, sis. Alright, so we have that. Now, I'm gonna take the foundation, the skin tone foundation part, and correct under here because it helps sharpen it. And then, I'm gonna take the highlight side and marry those two sections together. And so it starts to create that dimension because you can already start to see how things are coming together. There we go. We're going to soften that just a little bit. Boom. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is contour my nose. So I take a flat brush, the same brush that you use to, roll the glue up, which I'm going to be doing again in a moment. Take some of that foundation, and then start to, let me try to get a little closer, shape the nose. That's one side. And that's the other. And then another thing I like to do is go under the dot that I made and contour that too, because it kind of helps to round the nose up a little bit and give you more of a little elf nose. Now, one more thing I also like to do that some people don't really do a lot of. My lips are already full, but I like to make my bottom lip look a little fuller. So I got underneath, right in that crease, right there, and then just slightly round it. Because that creates the illusion of a fuller bottom lip because of the shadow you just created. Because of course, the highlights bring things forward and the contours pull things back. That's why people like to contour the cheeks, because it makes them sink in. Now, with my nose, I like to go in and just lightly blend that down and thin that out a little. And then I like to just kind of tap it with my hand to soften it. Because while the contour is still there, the warmth from your finger helps to marry the colors a lot better. So on certain sections of my face, I do prefer using a finger rather than like a beauty blender or a sponge, whatever. So we have that. So we have the definition, in the nose, we have it on the cheeks. So now I'm going to go in again with my glue stick, and then we're going to do another layer because the top layer has dried by now. And now I'm going to go in the direction of the hair, like I combed it up, so I'm going to go upward with it. So this will be my second layer of security. I'm pretty liberal with the glue stick, so that's one brow. We're gonna go with this one now. There we are. All right, and that's just for added security, because I get nervous about my brow cover sometimes, because the heat will melt that glue. So we got that. So what I'm going to do while this is still drying, because the next layer is going to be the finishing layer, I'm going to go ahead and set everything, and then I'm going to start to like go back in like with my highlight powders and contouring on all that. Now I can find my powder puff. I prefer to use a powder puff because it's just got more surface area to it. So yeah, there we go. I'm gonna edit that part out. So here we go. I have translucent powder. It's Coty Airspun powder. You can get it like Walmart. You can get it, at most drugstores, just like everything else. So I like to really get the powder in there and then set everything. And don't be afraid to be heavy with the powder. You might look like Casper a little bit, but it's worth it. Now, we haven't used a whole lot of products on the face because, for my look, it doesn't take a lot of different foundations. I just use the 3. And then I go back in with like corresponding powders for everything. Alright, now that we got everything set, we're going to go ahead and dust off the excess powder. And then we're going to go in and we're going to go ahead and do our highlighting and contouring with powders. So I'm just going to take a powder brush. I got this from e.l.f. Again, you can get it like Walmart, Target, wherever they sell e.l.f. This brush is like maybe $3 or so, so it's not super expensive because I'm on a budget. We've got bills. Now, I like to go in with a highlight powder first, and then contour, and then highlight. So I work from top to bottom. So I'm gonna go in with my highlight powder first, and this is Black Opal's powder. It's a finishing powder in the color medium. I'm gonna show you the bottom in the color 400 medium. You can see that it's probably backwards, but it's in 400 medium. What I like to do, because I like, definition, I like to go in with a cosmetic wedge and place the powder where I want it. Because like with the powder puff for this particular step, for me, it's just a little more controlled, because I can pick exactly where I want the powder to be. So that's under the eye for one. And just do same thing other side. And here's where I'm gonna start like my baking and all that, and then just a little bit on the lip, not as heavy, but still there. So we have that, and I'm just gonna go ahead and boop boop boop. We have that. Now I'm gonna go in and contour my cheeks and my jawline. I use the Black Radiance True Complexion Contour Palette from medium to dark. I take an angled blush brush with the contour shade. I just go straight in with the contour shade, and then you start to chisel out what we've already put in place. So I'm literally just reinforcing everything that I just did. Now sometimes after I do this step and everything else, I'll go in for nightclub looks. I'll go in with black eyeshadow, and chisel this out right here, so that way it gives a little more definition and makes your cheekbones pop out a little more, because that depth is there. And the same thing with the jawline, reinforce where you put everything. So for the nails, I like to take an eyeshadow brush, and some people may not agree with this, but my face, my rules. Take that contour powder, tap off a little excess. This is just an eyeshadow brush I got from Elf, and just start to shave that nose even more, because we're just reinforcing what we already did. There we go. And then under the nose, right there. Boom, right there. You see? It's already starting to come together. We have that. Now that we've gone in with the contour powder on the cheekbones, I like to, carve out the cheek a little more. So I'm going back in with that highlight powder that I used under my eye, taking that same cosmetic wedge, and then I'm just going to cut that cheek. And I like to round upward and have it swoop down. Boom. There we go. And I like to kind of blend it in and help it marry itself to the skin when I'm applying it, because it makes it just a little easier. So we have the highlighting and the contouring of the powders done. So this is just the base level. I'm going to go back in with a blush later and highlighter. You'll see it. Now I'm just going to dust a little more with no extra product on the angle brush, just using the current product I have on it to just keep everything together. Alright, so now this is the final layer of glue on the brows. This is layer 3. This is finishing touch. So I'm going going to go in with that glue stick again for the final time, and I'm going to do this one brow at a time because you have to be very mindful of how you do this. Take this glue stick, go in, and let half. Right there on the brow. Then we're going to take the translucent powder while it's still wet, and just going to squeeze it, get a decent amount on there, and just press it in. Being mindful not to like move the glue because you did all that work and you want to make sure that what you do is secure. Now the powder is to help take the excess moisture from the glue, and for me it helps fill in the cracks between the hair and the glue, because sometimes it don't always come together that way. There, so we got that set down. Now I'm going to do the same thing other side. And this stick is on its last leg, girl. This is the last one. This is the last flip. Be very, a little liberal with it. So you got purple brows. Go in, squeeze it, and just press it in. There we go. And again, just being mindful of what you're doing, so that way it doesn't damage the work that you did already. There we go. Now, while this side is, still baking, I'm going to take my contour foundation again, and I'm going to take my flat brush that I've been using, once I find it, because sometimes brushes like to walk away when you need them most. And then some get my highlight foundation and start covering things and doing brows. So I'm going to take cashew, and then I'm just going to go over the brow and cover it up. It might look like a bit of Alien-esque or Lion King chic for a moment, but because I like to just go ahead and knock out my forehead highlight when I cover my brow. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to take the beauty blender, of course, do the same thing we did on the bottom, and just blend things out. There we go. There we are. And you see how I already brought it down to my nose to help marry everything. So once I put powder over all of that, it'll just be a little easier to blend it and blend everything in, so it's more seamless. So my natural brow is right here. I like to start here because I freehand my brow. Start here and just go over at an angle, because my natural brow is still down here. I like to go over, just right over it, and then extend it down this way. And bring it down because of a long brow. So I'm going to get the basic brow shape down, and then I'm going to, go in and correct it. Just make it slightly thicker. There we are. Because I'm going to go in and I'm going to shape everything up so that way I can have the sharpness I'm looking for. Second side. And just do the same. Now be mindful, brows are sisters and not twins. And sometimes they're cousins twice removed. We all have those days. This child, Lord knows, every blue moon, we always have like that one brow that doesn't want to cooperate. You just want to have to say, get in this car and you behave. But it don't want to do it. It wanted to, live its own life, live its best life. Now that we have that, I'm gonna go back in with cashew. That's what I like about like running out of foundation because this is an old cashew. I can just like dig into it for the rest and still use it to correct my brows. There we go. And I know that my brow's a little long. It's all the way in my temple. I get that. But that's just what works for me. And I just like to sharpen things. Boom. So that's the bottom. I like to do the bottoms first and then the top of the brow. There's a joke in there somewhere, and I'm really trying hard not to make it a joke. Get it? Do the bottoms first and then go for the tops. Thumbs up this video if you want to hear more crude humor like that. If you like crude humor, let me know. Then what I've got to do is go in and define the tail of the brow. Because I like a really sharp tail. Same other side. And sometimes, I did that on purpose. So sometimes you mess up and it's fine. You want to take your, clean your brush off and go in, clear that up. So there's that. And then you still have foundation on the bottom. So you can correct it. So we're all good. Now, what I like to do is just blend out the edges because you don't have any powders yet, so you can still easily blend the foundation out, which is another reason why I like to do everything in cream first, brows included, because it just makes more sense to blend foundation on bare skin rather than on top of powder. But that's just what works best for me. What works for me might not work with somebody else. Then I'll just go in with my skin tone foundation on the top of my forehead. So I'll go in like this, start to shrink things down, like my forehead and all that. And then blend. Blend, blend, blend. So that way it's just easier to keep from having halo brow. You know what I mean? And then I overcorrected my forehead, so I'm gonna just take some highlight foundation and fix that real quick. Sometimes you just accidentally do too much, and that's fine. That's the best part about makeup. You can wipe it off and fix it. So now that I have my forehead done, I'm gonna set it, and then I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the top that I did on the bottom. So there we go. Take some powder. The translucent coated powder. Translucent extra coverage. If you're walking and shopping. There we go. So we have that set. Now it's not gonna move. So what I'm going to do now is just do the same thing I did on the bottom. Just dust off the excess. And then start with highlighting and contouring on the forehead now. So for this though, for my forehead, I am going to take my sponge and my highlight foundation. My highlight powder. The black opal in medium. go in here. So that way, I still have like my forehead done. It's got, pigment into it, but not so severe. And then, while that's still chilling, I'm going to take my contour foundation, this is my contour powder, hit it again, and carve it out on top. And this will get rid of any like excess highlight powder, and it doesn't, require it to be super duper dark on my forehead. So that way, if I choose to wear like a blonde or anything like that, it'll be a little easier to blend in because it's not, super dark and super harsh. So, just gonna dust off the excess powder here, so you can like start to see it come together. And then there's still powder here, and I like to go in on the right over the brow just to make sure we're good. Now the brows look a little pale right now, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna darken them up before I do eyeshadow. Now what I like to do with my brow, I like to take my contour powder, which is a little warm, well, excuse me, a little cooler, because I like a darker brow, and then mix it with a warmer brown eyeshadow. This is Ethiopia from Juvia's Place, and I like to just go in with the color, so it gives it a little darker brown moment. So that way you got your brow color. Because again, this is like my neutral look, so I'm not going to put like a dark brow, like a black brow. There we go. So we got the brow on one. Same thing other side. Just dip, dip, dip. Because that also brings it back, so when you do your eyeshadow, you still have your structure, and you still have a good idea of your boundaries. That's why I personally like to do my brows before I do eyeshadow. Some people do it the other way around, which is fine. But again, this is what works for me. I'm going to get a little more of that Ethiopia in it. And boom, brows are in. Now I'm going to take another eyeshadow brush and just get rid of excess color, so that way it's not muddying up, what we're about to do. Now that we have that, I'm going to go in to my highlight foundation with a powder puff this time, and place my catch powder. So we got that. We're going to loosely apply on the bottom, right here. So that way it'll catch, fallout or anything like that. So it's just a little easier to manage. And it doesn't mess up the work that you've already done. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take Ethiopia again. Swirl it in and just apply it in a V. Because you notice my normal crease is right in here, right there. So I'm going a little bit higher and cheating it higher, so that way later I'll have room for eyeliner, for glitter, for all that, because I do use loose glitters for eyeshadow. And then just start to blend. So that way, it's not super duper harsh. And then we're going to go back in later with a brow highlight and with that top, so it's softer, and marry it. Now sometimes you don't put enough, which is fine, Because like we talked about, you can always add more. So I have to blend that out too. There we go. I like to connect with my nose contour. Because sometimes I'll use Ethiopia for nose contour as well. You know what I mean? To warm it up. And I'm probably going to end up doing that at some point anyway. So we have that. And then take another brush and go in with my contour powder. Because, you know, it's like a darker brown and helps with definition and all that good stuff. And like just define just a little bit. Because I like to stipple it in a little. Some people may be cringing at the way that I do my makeup, but again, it's what works for me. Because we're going to cut the crease anyway, so. There we go. There we go. Alright, so now that we have that in, I'm gonna, just like we talked about, you know, just define the crease a little bit more, and then set it with like a peachy, like the lid with a peachy eyeshadow, because that'll be the base for whatever glitter I decide to use. Sometimes I like to do the color of the glitter on the lid, so that way, you know, if something falls off, you know, like the way the glitter doesn't adhere as well, it's still got that base color. Now, I'm gonna take my flat brush again. I'm gonna take cashew again, right here. Load up on that product, because this flat brush has been through a lot. And, you know, go in and let have. Catch that Noah's Ark reference. Go in and let have on that crease and that lid. I want to get one of those stamps that has the spot where you can, like, you know, put whatever you're gonna put for the cut crease on it, and just there you go. So we have that down. And then I just like to take a flat eyeshadow brush and go right in. And I'm using the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe. Clearly I use a lot of the same colors. And just set that brown. Well, set that lid. Boom. Now, I'm not going in with like an inner color and fading it, and you'll see why in just a second, because I've used a lot of eyeliner. But we're going to do the same thing other side. And this is always like my harder side, because of course I'm left-handed and the left side is my better side. But I've met people who are different, like they'll be right-handed but their left side is the better side that they do their makeup on, and I'm like, teach me your ways so I can be ambidextrous with my makeup brushes and get my life together. Now we're gonna set it with that same peachy shadow, and that'll leave the base for like liners, glitters, and all that. But what I'm gonna do before that is just take another eyeshadow brush with that same peachy color and go under the brow, because it'll start to soften that harsh line. What I also like to do whenever I have my black brow on is as like right after I apply the black brow, I'll then go in with that peachy shadow. Actually seen with cashew, correct the underneath of the brow and then set it with that peachy shadow. So it just makes it a little easier to deal with. So, you know, treating it kind of like treating it kind of like a cut crease, honestly. Stamping that in so it's a little easier to work with. There we go. Alright, so we have that done. Now, before I do my liner, I'm just going to go underneath with Ethiopia and, like a little brush. And just start to go in and add some color down below, underneath the eye. There we go. And while we're at it, I'm just going to run with the nose. Why not? Because I'm here. And then just make sure it stays connected. So my nose is shaped a little weird, so I like to overcorrect sometimes. There we go. And then we're going to go in with the contour powder. Do the same thing. Doo-doo-doo. And why not reinforce that? There we go. Ooh. What I'm also going to do now, and we're getting close to done, is reinforce that underlip right there. There we are. Alright, so now it's time for eyeliner. What I'm going to do is dust away all that catch powder because we don't really need it anymore. Getting rid of all the fallout that may have occurred. So we got that. Now I'm gonna go in. This is an e.l.f. felt tip liner. I like the pen because it gives me a little more control. I like to go from like the inner corner, the outer corner right here. I just go straight out here because my wing is bigger than it used to be. And then I like to just take it from the tip, connect it down here, right in there. Like you see how that shape that I'm making? It's kind of like an obtuse triangle. There we go. See, who said you wouldn't use algebra in real life? Triangles on the face, geometrical shapes. Now that we have that down, what I'm going to do is go in from the inner corner of my eye out. So we're going to go from the inner corner out. And we're going to connect it. There we go. That's why I mentioned that I wasn't going to do like a shadow to kind of marry things right there and, smoke stuff out. Because I cover most of the lid with liner. And then this space is reserved for like glitter and all that. So clean that up. And there we go. That's one liner, or one side of liner. Then, after we make sure that the tip is good and wet, we're going to go on the same side, the right side, and do the same thing. Gotta make sure that they're symmetrical. And bring it down. There we go. Because a lot of times it's easier to amp up the liner later in the night, you know, whenever you're about to go on stage or whatever you're gonna be doing. Do the same thing, go from the inner corner out and connect everything. It might be a little sloppy at first, but you know, you can smooth it out because the pen allows for that. And mind you, this is e.l.f., so you know it doesn't cost a whole lot. It cost me like maybe $3-4. Making sure I'm not missing a bunch of spots. And I'm gonna bring the liner up on this lid. Because I actually prefer it that way. There we go. So we have our liner done. My face, I have a signature beauty mark that I like to wear every time I'm in drag. I've been doing it, you know, ever since Tiffany was born back in like 2010. So what I'm gonna do is take cashew, dip the tip of, or the end of my brush in it, right there, because I have it here, so that way, you know, we have the highlight foundation. Then I like to set it with the translucent powder right there. See? And while that's still, like, while that's gonna, you know, set for a second, I'm gonna go back in and bake some more, because that helps, you know, reinforce everything that you've done and gives you everything you need and more, everything you didn't know you needed. Underneath. Now, if I want to be super dramatic for my face, I'll go in with the liner and smoke everything out while it's still wet. But, you know, just for the sake of still being somewhat neutral, I'm gonna forego that particular step today. And then just go back underneath and reinforce what you've done right here. There we go. So now dust off that translucent powder so you still have your little dot. That way it's easier to see. And then what you'll do, I like to take a liquid liner. This is also from e.l.f. Actually, is this the one that I like to use? Actually, just for the sake of not having you like go and get a bunch of products, I'm gonna just use the same liner and just press it in until you get the desired size of your beauty mark, if you wear one. Boom, there we go. So while it's not super huge, that added highlight foundation and setting it will still make it pop out whenever people do see it. So that way you have like that added, you know, little onto your face. So now that we have that done, it's time for lips. Now, I normally go for a super dark color. Usually I use Video Vixen from Wet n Wild liquid lipstick. It's like this very dark purpley color. That's my nude. If we're being completely honest with ourselves here. What I'm gonna do instead is just go for like a lighter color usually, if I want to try something different, like I'll go for like a red or something like that, and then just lighten it up. So, which one is this? I'm gonna try a different color today because I use a lot of lipsticks from Hard Candy. Yeah, we'll use this one today. We're gonna use the color Crave from Hard Candy. Now, a lot of people like to go super dark when they line their lips. I don't. I just, overdraw slightly with like a brown pencil. And I'll literally go right on top. Just right in here. And right over. Right over on the top. So that way it's not super exaggerated because my lips are already full, like pretty full. And I'll go just under the lowest part of my bottom lip. And kind of bring that in a little bit. So, my lips are there. And then I'll go in and fill in with whatever color. But before I do that, I like to highlight my lip, like my Cupid's bow. So I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna take like a small little brush like this because it's easier to get in. And this frosty highlight from Wet n Wild. It's the color Precious Petals. It's really, really shimmery. I'm just gonna load up that brush. I'm gonna go in here and I'll layer my highlights. So there's one, and then I like to go in with a gold highlight as well. And I'm gonna use, which gold highlighter am I gonna use? Because I have two. I have Blondie from Fenty, and then I have from Miss Rose. I just have like a just gold highlighter. I think I'm gonna use this one because it's more affordable. You can get this online. You can get this at Wish. You can get it at their website. So that way, boom, it's there. Now, I'm gonna go in with Crave, excuse me, from Hard Candy, and just fill it in. And fill in that lip. There we are. You gotta be careful. I don't wanna break nothing. There. So it's it's for my skin tone. It's like pinky with a little more of a red undertone with it. So we're gonna go in with that. And I like to highlight my like use like my highlight foundation to brighten up the center of my lip and make it a little more pouty. So I'll go in with cashew on my finger, right in here on the inner. And build it up. So that way it's still got that slight highlight to it without it being too, being too much. So we have highlight on the lip done. Now I'm going to highlight my nose. For my nose, I do like to focus more on the gold, so I have like gold still on my lip brush. Lower brush I usually highlight my lip. I usually do them at the same time. So I'm going to go in on the nose, right there. And then just right at the edge. So that nose is gonna be highlighted right there. And then we're gonna go ahead and of course highlight the cheeks. Now this time I'm gonna use on the fan brush. I'm gonna start with the gold, and then I'm gonna layer on some of the precious petals. I'm gonna start with it. Not be too liberal with it since I am layering. There we go. So that way it'll have like that gold undertone on the chin too, a little bit. And then we're gonna go in with a different highlighter brush now that we have like a lighter side of things, with the precious petals. Doop, doop, doop. There we go. So like in the nightclub lighting, once the light catches it, it'll really glow and stand out. It'll really glow and stand out. So we're gonna lightly dust that because the chin, I don't want that to be the standout. There we are. Now that we're about done, I'm going to start getting ready to glue my lashes on. So, first thing I'll do is get my lash glue, and a lot of people, look a little weird whenever I use this glue. Like I use Weep On, because of it'll rip out your eyelashes, and this, that, and the third, and I'm like, well, hasn't ripped them out yet, but the way that I use mine, not to be like cheeky about it, but the way I do it, since I wear a lot of eyeliner, I cheat it up a little bit, so that way it's not directly on my lash line. So I'm going to dip my good old trusty dusty brush, and these are 3 pairs of 101 stacked together. Like, they're not super huge, but I don't require a huge lash whenever I'm in drag. So I'm going to coat the band, and like whenever you have like a little bit of buildup, it does help. And then I'm going to take my other and then coat the band. There we go. And I'm going to let that get tacky. While that gets tacky, I'm going to go in and then reinforce like my contour and all that. And just, just for the sake of doing it, I'm going to show you the black trick that I was mentioning. So, I have that right here. Get my contour. Just kind of go over again. There we go. A little more right there. Just so it's still present. Now, I'm going to take a black eyeshadow. I'm just going to use the bottom right hand corner from the Jaclyn Hill palette. Sometimes I'll use the black from the Urban Decay Smoked palette that I got for Christmas. Because, like that's a super duper black. So we're going to swirl it. And then just go right in that edge. Right there. And we're going to bring that down just slightly. And start to flick it and feather it a little. And do the same thing other side. Sometimes it's a little easier to do on one side than the other. And we just embrace that. That's just how life works sometimes. Sometimes it's easier on one side. So, to soften that a little bit, to make it less noticeable, I'll just go in with the leftover from my contour brush, and then hit it here and here. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is take my blush, which is Tea Rose, a powder blush from Milani. My drag sister was hanging out one time and let me use this, and never gave it back. Like, you know, she never took it. So I'm like, all right, apple out, and then, you know, just brightening up the cheek and just build it, because I don't want it to be like too pink, because, you know, pink is my least favorite color. There we go. There we are. Okay, and what I also like to do sometimes is dust a little on my contour areas, so that way it's not as severe. It's, you know, a little more lifelike. We have that. There we go. So now my lashes are just about ready. Actually, they are ready. It's perfect. And I place it, you know, just use my hand. Some people use tweezers. I don't require that. And I just press it in. There we go. Just press it so that it adheres, because we're putting it on the skin, which is covered in like a bunch of makeup and liner, so it's a little safer. Sometimes that glue will try to travel on you, so you gotta be careful. Do not get that glue in your eye, because like if you don't wait long enough, it'll feel like it starts to burn a little, and that is the last thing you want right next to your eyeball. You know what I mean? Who wants that? Raise your hand, because I don't. There we go. I like to lift it a little so that way it's not just resting. You know? Like I like to like just hold it up. There we are. So we have that done. Now what I'm going to do is just dust off leftover powder. And we are done. So this is like the finished look. Once I do like a, you know, neutral to club ready look, I'm gonna like throw in hair and, you know, a couple simple jewels for like tip around looks. And then I'm gonna show you how to like apply my glitter, and I'm gonna do all of that. But I want to thank you all so much. These lashes are fighting with me right now. Boom. Sit and stay. But I want to thank you so much for joining my channel, and please like and subscribe, comment, whatever you feel is necessary. I'm going to be back with more videos. And again, my name is Tiffany Hunter Monique, and you have a great day.